everyone, and welcome to World Sports Daily. I'm Jim Williams. My partner in crime, Sean Miller, sitting beside me. Sean, we were talking in the pre-show about how many leagues we can see here in this country streaming, which I think is phenomenal. We've got, pretty much every major soccer league in the world we can stream.
Yeah, there's. I just want to. I'll show you this. The screen here. Now, this is. One football now available on smart TVs. One football launched this weekend. Amazon, Apple TV, Fire Stick. It has Swiss Super League, Danish Super League, a Polish top flight, Norwegian top flight, Icelandic top flight, Kazakhstan, Latvia, Northern Ireland, Slovak, and Italian Serie C. And that's just on one app that you have. Obviously, you have ESPN Plus and
right. Well, they've got the Bundesliga over there, right?
And La Liga, yep. And and then today's the Carabao Cup, so ESPN carries the Carabao Cup as well as the FA Cup. So the thing about that I like
Champions League is over on Paramount.
Paramount, yep,
and EPL is over on Paramount Plus, and EPL's on Peacock. I can't say Peacock, but yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, the
thing that kind of differentiates it. When you watch the Premier League, if you don't have these streaming services, you can watch a game at one game. And one game at NBC. When you go, when the FA Cup third round comes, there's 64 games. I mean, and the majority of them are on ESPN Plus. So if you don't want to watch, Liverpool because you don't like Liverpool, you can go watch Leicester and Morecambe or whoever it is. So I think the thing with the streaming services that is really good now is that there's such a variety, and you can't really. If you're a soccer fan or you're a basketball, whatever it is, if the cost to get these packages is worth it, if you're going to be watching, 6, 7, 10 games a day, like it is with some of the sports.
I tallied it up, and I don't know what the one you just said, One Soccer, is it? Or one?
Yeah, it just launched. That just launched yesterday.
I've tallied it up, and it costs about $25 a month. And that's, if you don't count all the other stuff you get with these, right? If you're just looking for soccer, $25 a month, you get it all. Now, forget the fact that, with Paramount Plus, with Peacock, with ESPN, with all these other services, you get a ton of other stuff.
Yeah.
But if you're just a soccer fan, I don't think, $25 a month is not a bad deal for every possible soccer, game that you might want to see.
Yeah, it's just yesterday, with ESPN, there's a million. I do ESPN Plus for writer, basketball and field hockey and things, but it's not even that. You can watch with Paramount and Peacock. There's shows. There's you can watch TV shows. You can watch movies. You can watch all that stuff. And it's I haven't had cable in 10 years, so it's just it's not worth it for me because I'm not a huge. I've had Fubo TV for a while, but not a huge TV person. But I have all the streaming stuff to watch the games. So Champions League on Paramount, you got to have that, and Europa League and Europa Conference League, which is pretty good too.
Oh, and you can watch it on your phone, or you can watch it on your pad or whatever. It doesn't have to be, so you can be out somewhere and and watch it, or for that matter, as I've done a couple of times, simply just listen to it while I'm while I'm working, doing something else. And so you can do it. And I think it's really, the packages have been pretty phenomenal. Fubo has done a nice job. Sling has done a very nice job. They've brought in a ton of soccer, and they will actually be both Fubo and Sling will be working with Fox to make sure that you get the World Cup. So, those are some places to look at. I highly recommend that you take all of these and do the 7-day free trial, right? Then you know what you like and what you don't like on there. There's first run movies both on Paramount Plus and Peacock. So not to mention hundreds and thousands of television shows. So you can be entertained. You're not getting gypped any way, shape, or form by the streaming services. But I can remember back in the day, the only soccer that I could see in the early years was really through Spanish television.
Yep. I mean, you could watch those Telemundo and some of those broadcasts and the over the air broadcast
Right.
they had all the the matches, and there's a place called El Chingaro in Ben Salem, and you go in there on a Friday, Saturday and Sunday night, and that's what they're in there watching. From 6 o'clock until the store closes, you can go in there and hang out and have a couple tacos and watch the game and stuff, but that it's always on in there. So
my buddy Andres Cantor,
yeah,
and, it was funny. Andres Cantor, the man who patented the word "go," fantastic voice. Andres Cantor called 1,002 soccer games in studio before he ever actually called one literally in person.
Yeah.
And I know that nowadays fans can see you and I are sitting here talking to each other. I'm looking at you on a 21-inch screen in front of me. But when Andres Cantor called those games, they were on 10 and 12-inch black and white monitors. Now, to actually be able to call the games, know who those players were when it's in black and white, it was phenomenal to me that he was able to pull that off, because he doesn't have the benefit of this, the sheets with the players' names on them and all of that information that you would have. He doesn't have spotters. He doesn't have all that. He literally is listening with a bug in his ear to the audio from the Spanish broadcaster, and he's regurgitating it in Spanish to his audience. It was just, Andres, to watch him do that was just phenomenal. And then I did a year where I did World Cup in English. We had the Spanish feed, so we had to use the Spanish feed. So I had seen what Andres did. So I get it. I got the Spanish bug in my ear. I can speak Spanish, not well, but well enough. And, it was me doing the English version with, a couple of different analysts doing it and not trying to, giving it kind of like, okay, I'm not going to give you a play-by-play because that's not going to happen. It's but we are going to give you the game and watch it. And it was almost like you and I sitting and watching it on television, because actually that's exactly what I was doing, is watching it on television and telling people what was going on. But we've certainly come a long way from those days.
Yeah, definitely.
And now you shoot soccer and stream it.
Yeah. I stream the games now, and I stream, talk about it
right here on the Capital Sports Network.
That's right. I stream it on a 12-inch iPad, 12.9-inch iPad, which is probably, the camera on that is probably better than the camera they had on, shooting games 20, 30 years ago. So, I mean, the cameras are crazy.
$125,000 Ikegami cameras reduced to this.
Yeah, it's I'll tell like the camera on some of the MacBooks now and the iPhones is just amazing. You see some of this stuff, and
right.
it's just so much has changed. Talk about these games. The World Cup roster for the U.S. The U.S. has announced tomorrow Not a lot of surprises, I'm sure. There's a lot of stuff going on. The France team, the defending champions, will be announced tomorrow.
Right.
Wales, a lot of different announcements. Poland, the guy upstairs who's working right now is from Poland. He's waiting to see what they can do in this. Germany's the 10th. So it's interesting. It's starting to get real. This is we got all these matches this week. And the Premier League on the weekend and stuff, but next week we'll have the World Cup previews. I taped over at Riyadh. Those will be launching next week. So somewhere in the Max Wagers network here, somewhere on the Capital Sports and everything. So it's I'm a club over country person, so I like the World Cup because I'm a huge soccer fan. But I'd rather Manchester United win trophies than other teams. People in America bash me for that sometimes, but it is. Yeah, U.S. Good. They do well. They can't win the tournament, but if they do well, I'll be happy. I hopefully they beat England or just tie with them, because then the people on my Twitter will never hear the end of it for 4 years.
Yeah. I have to ask you. There's one team in our draw I'm saying the U.S. draw, that fascinates me, because I think that they're better than people expect, and that's Wales.
Wales.
What do you think?
Yeah, this is statistically, I think this is the toughest group, because all the teams are ranked like Iran is pretty good. Iran's ranked in the top 20 in the world rankings. Yeah, I think rankings. I think they're all inside the top 20 right now. So yeah, I think the Wales team is pretty good. The thing is, in the first game, you can't lose. You can't lose the first game. Iran is ranked right now. England right now is 5. US is 16. Wales 19. Iran 20. I think it might be the only group with all 4 teams inside the top 20 in the nation and in the world. The Wales game is so big. I mean, we'll talk more about it next week as we gear up and maybe break down some of these groups. I think they can't lose. If the U.S. wins, I think they're that's it. They're probably going to be able to
the next round.
Yeah, I think so. If they lose, they're probably in a lot of trouble. They would probably have to beat England at that point, or at least get a point from them. I mean, you want to just get to, even if they draw with Wales, you're still in with a shout, because if you beat, what they have to do against Iran to get through. So
okay, no, go ahead. I was just going to ask you a question. Go ahead.
No, yeah, go ahead.
One of the things in the past on World Cup, there are teams that have been accused of this, and that is playing for the tie, playing for the draw to get that 1 point. Okay.
Yep.
And you can tell. I mean, these guys, they'll play the first 10 minutes like they're playing, okay, are we going to score? No. All right. So then they almost play the entire, last 45 minutes behind the center line, right? They're like, let's just kind of play back and play defense. And, if we counter, rush for out there, if something happens and we get a counter, we'll play it. If not, we're just going to stay back here. I mean, without anybody saying it, it happens. And I think that's something that, we're going to be looking for, especially when you're in a group of death, like you said. You can't afford to lose. You just can't afford not to come up with a point. If you don't have a point, you're in trouble.
Yeah, I think the U.S. probably in this game, I think they know, attacking wise, if they go into it and score, if they win the game, I think they know they're probably in. So I think they'll probably try to go for it. If it's 1-1 in the 80th minute, I don't know if they're going to be sending players forward like crazy. Maybe they'll be a little bit more defensive and settle for a point. The first game for a lot of these teams, talked about this on the other stuff from like a better standpoint. It's just tough. I mean, it's the same thing with the Champions League. The Champions League, because it's six games and you play each team twice because it's a little bit more drawn out. There's a little chance, like a lot of people just wait till the second day or the second match day, and then 3, 4, 5. I always say 3, 4, 5 is where you kind of make your money there. It's just tough because these teams they don't want to lose. Like they're going to do everything possible not to lose. And if they do happen to win, though, I would say, the way I know the coach, I think they're going to probably try to they'll try to play. And then if it's 70th minute, 75th minute, 1-1, maybe we shut it down a little bit. And if we get a chance, we'll go for it. But on the counter or something like that, but maybe we're not going to do it. Wales announces their roster tomorrow. I mean, obviously Gareth Bale's going to be on it fresh off his title win there with LAFC. So, but he's older now. I don't know. Like, I know they're ramping up the ads on Fox, and I think people are going to start to, get excited about this. It's just weird because usually you have like that whole month to get excited after the Premier League ends or something like this, and then you have some friendlies and then you play. Here it doesn't have it. So like for me, Manchester United plays on Thursday and then on Sunday. So like I'm not even worried about the World Cup until after Sunday because I'm gonna, because my team is playing. So, I think that week leading up to it is going to be like just chaos because there's never been anything like this where it's just so condensed and it's you're going to you start seeing stuff on ESPN in some places now.
Right. But, well, they've got John Hamm has a funny funny promo that he does for Fox on it, and getting ready, and he's dressed up like Santa Claus, and it's like we're about to, a Christmas miracle is what the promo is actually called, and it would be. There's no question about it. It would definitely be a Christmas miracle if the U.S. were to go out there and place in, win the cup. But we'll get closer to that in a couple of days.
It's interesting. We talked about that, we actually went through and talked about like, each CONCACAF's team, where they're, you could bet on them, where you think they're going to get eliminated, and the group stages. Everyone thinks they're going to get eliminated in the group stage, minus 125 and round of 16 plus 225. When they get to the World Cup, they usually get out of the group. So I think they get out. If they get out, they're going to have to play Netherlands, which I don't know. I don't think they could beat the Netherlands. They're not good enough to beat like 3 or 4 European teams in a row, obviously, to win a title. But, could they get out of the group? Yeah, I think so.
Let's talk for a second about the playing in Qatar. Okay. Obviously, we know it's going to be hot. Okay, that part. And they're playing the games in the late afternoon. Hey, Foxy, how you doing? I don't know. Oh, well, Foxy's not very optimistic there, which is okay. There's reason. Believe me, Foxy, there's reason not to be optimistic at times. I was wondering, with regard to what we were talking about, the playing in Qatar. These stadiums, the grass and everything is pretty artificial. The grass is artificial. What I'm saying is they literally just put grass in there. They built a stadium. These stadiums are like pop-up. They're like Lego stadiums. They can take them down and put them up. Do you think that the heat during the course of the day, because you have to practice sometime, and you can't practice at night always, what do you think the weather is that going to affect? Hey, Fox, you guys, unfortunately, oh, okay. What do you think with regard to, will that benefit the South American teams and like the U.S. who are used to the heat as opposed to the European squads?
I think there's valid concern there for some of these teams. It's gonna they're playing some of these games at 10 o'clock at night, so
Mhm.
some of them are covered. There's air conditioning, but look, it's the desert. I think the one thing that's going to mitigate some of this is, they're coming in the middle of the season, so
Mhm.
they're in shape. Like it's not
Mhm.
at the end of the season where they're kind of all banged up. But the other thing is, there's no travel, so like
Right.
everything is within 50 kilometers. So I mean, really, it
Mhm.
takes like 25, 30 minutes probably to get from your hotel to any game at most, maybe 5 minutes. So, that could help. I think,
Mhm.
there's no altitude, there's no, you don't have to get on a plane once you get there. You don't have to
Mhm.
get, so that could help with the recovery and stuff like that. But yeah, I think that the weather could be beneficial to a team like Brazil, maybe
Mhm.
Argentina, that's
Mhm.
Brazil and Argentina, I think, probably meet in the semifinals if the
Mhm.
draw breaks the way we think it does. Yeah, some of these other teams maybe could struggle with it. I I wouldn't be shocked with that.
I don't know if you saw it, but there was a very cool picture of Maradona painted on one of the buildings in Qatar on the way. I mean, in Argentina, before the team left, there was a massive painting of Maradona on the on a building as they were leaving through Argentina on the way to fly to World Cup.
They need to
Uh,
put a picture of Alejandro Garnacho up now, the new Argentine
right,
superstar.
the new Maradona. Yeah, let's see if he's got the hand of God that could help them this time. It's I think one of the fun things about this World Cup is something you just brought up, and that is we're not going to have to. I mean, clubs are, for all intents and purposes, within a couple of minutes of each other. They're staying in hotels that aren't far from each other. It's going to be a lot of fun. It is winter over there. Okay, you're right, Jones. It is winter, but winter for
Winter in
Qatar
the desert.
is like, yeah, winter for Qatar is like summer in Michigan. Okay, it's not something that you have to worry about. I think from a weather standpoint, it's still going to be hot, and that's why the joke was that the reason the reason that Qatar got it was the sun was booked for that month. So it's going to be hot. There's no question about it.
It's
And again, remember, it's all relative because Europeans, get hot from a standpoint of if it gets above 75, they're freaking out. So it
Yeah,
is
I think it's
really
gonna be
interesting.
like 80. Yeah, I think it's gonna be in the the high temperature in the 80s, maybe in the,
And there's no humidity.
yeah, it's Celsius. Yeah, everything evaporates right off. It's just Celsius will be in the, mid 20s. And then at night it'll be um, 65, 66 degrees. So I don't, I think it's not going to be as much of a concern as people are thinking. Sometimes the players, I think in the cold is when people start pulling hammies and I think it's easier to loosen your muscles and everything when it's a little warmer. So it's gonna be interesting.
According to the weather service, the temperature range, as you said, if you're keeping track on Celsius, it's 26 to 28, which is 78 to 82.
It's not that bad.
So it's not too bad. And as I said, it's kind of like summer in Michigan.
When you're playing when Inter Miami is playing in July and it's 105 with 100% humidity. Yeah, it's winter in places like that is still warm. Winter in South America is hotter than summer back in the UK. Foxy, winter in America is hotter than in the summer in the UK. Well, I've been there a couple of times. I will say, Foxy, the last time I was there in August, it was pretty nice. But and the last time, I used to go for 3 weeks at a time at the beginning of the season, and sometimes it was 70. About 20 Celsius, and sometimes it was raining. Surprise, surprise, it rains in Manchester. But I think it's gonna be. You're not getting any rain. You're not getting any. I think
it's arid. So yeah.
Yeah, the stadiums are covered. They're going to be air conditioned. I think, purely for the football, soccer kind of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that you kind of can like about this World Cup. Putting aside all the other stuff with the human rights and all that stuff.
All of which we're not overlooking. We're just simply not addressing. We're not a political show.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes, there's all these people are getting kind of, brew dog, but then they sold the beer for it. But so yeah, I mean, everything is close. The games, the weather's going to be perfect. There's no, the field, the pitches are going to be the way they are. You're not dealing with wind. You're not dealing with rain. You're not dealing with elements. It's just going to be go out there, play, and the best team is going to win. So I think
one of the things that I wanted to bring out and ask your opinion on, because it's coming at this time of the year, the opportunity for those of us who are fans to watch the games, it's really good. It's a good time because there's not baseball or anything else that's going to get in the way. There's not any other sport that's going to, take away from it. There's college football and pro football. Got it. Yes, absolutely. There's basketball and there's hockey. But this really, the temperatures will be cool here in the U.S.
Mm-hmm. So
people will be wanting to stay inside and wanting to watch it. And the way they've structured the games being, what is it? The early game is 10:30-ish. And then
it's 5 a.m., 8 a.m., 11 and 2. That's just the first week. And then once they get to match day 3, when everybody's got to play the same, the rest of the tournament is 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. So, I mean, you're done by 4. It doesn't really run into football and stuff like that. So,
and we'll be around so that we can give you an update on what happened in the first game, but we can also comment on what's going on in likely the end of some of these games as they will physically be ending. So we can all kind of watch them together.
Yeah, that's right.
So there'll be stuff to do.
World Cup watch along.
That's right. Our own little viewing party. And over my shoulder, we'll have it on the television. So for those of you who can't see it, you can watch it over my shoulder. The next quick bounce back, no pun intended. Last night, college basketball opened up. Any surprises from what you saw?
TCU almost lost. They won by 1. Arkansas Pine Bluff. I mean, in a crazy game. I thought I watched the North Carolina game. I didn't think they played very well. They ended up winning by 12, maybe 71. Defensively, they played well. I don't, in the first half they didn't shoot great, but it is what it is. And then you got to get the win there. Some of the teams, Rutgers looked great against Columbia. A lot of the teams, I looked because I went on by the book and pick some games for them, and a lot of those games that were supposed to be blowouts were blowouts. Baylor and you go down the top 25, and really the only team that struggled was TCU. The rest of the teams and Creighton struggled a little bit, but the rest of the teams won by 20 to 40 points. So, opening night, I think, it's a little bit of jitters sometimes with some of the teams, but I think, not, it's just getting their feet wet. And, I think when we get towards the, 2 weeks from now, the Thanksgiving tournaments, and you get those 5, 6, 7 different tournaments going on all over the place in Florida and Portland and Vegas and everywhere. I think you're going to start to see you know, some you'll start to figure it out. But yeah, college basketball is tough. I mean, I know a lot. A lot of people don't even watch it till January, but I will watch it. I
Well, USC got beat by Florida Gulf Coast last night.
Wow.
Which was a bit of a comeuppance since the head coach of USC was the head coach at Florida Gulf Coast. And, it's one of those things where, you want to be nice to your old employers. So, let's play them a game and see how it works. Well, sometimes it backfires. And for SC, who thought they were going to just waltz, by and take a win, it didn't work out for them. They lost to Florida Gulf Coast, which, look, Florida Gulf Coast in their conference, is a perennial good basketball team. I will tell you that the campus, it's not bad when your campus literally has a beach. So that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Although they did have some issues, and we're, of course, hoping everybody was fine from the hurricane, because that just, that hurricane just went right through where Florida Gulf Coast is. So tough times there. But, yeah, Florida Gulf Coast beat USC. UCLA played well last night. They're the number 9 team in the country. So, yeah, opening night was pretty good for the guys who we expected it to be good for.
Yeah, I used to watch a lot of the games. I used to watch a lot of the Big West, and the when the schedule comes out in January, they used to have those midnight games, ESPN, before there's ESPN Plus. So we'd always stay up and watch those games. But I mean, now ESPN Plus, you can watch any game at any time. So the Pac-12 games are always interesting. There's a lot of good teams out there.
We've got the Mountain West, which, some good teams out there. San Diego State, Colorado State.
This San Diego State team is very good. Again, I mean, they've just been so good for so long. Wyoming was pretty good last year. Just cashed a good one for my Lincoln Stevenage to win first half in the EFL Cup. Have them both on another for 90 minutes. Yeah, Foxy, I know you were talking about that in the early show. See, those games are going on right now. The Caribou Cup, named after a drink. I liked Everton. They're playing terribly, of course. The cup games. I went to a cup when I was over there, and I went to Charlton Athletic and QPR. So I always like those games. You could always get a seat for the games. The stadiums are never filled. So,
did you ever go to Scotland?
No, my buddy Stephen Quinn, when I went to Paris, he owned the Celtic bar right next to La Cage aux Folles on, I don't even know what part of France what part of what arrondissement.
It's on Mont.
Yes, I think it's like the 12th arrondissement or something. Yeah. He owned a bar because I've been to Paris a couple times, and I took French for 8 years. I can understand it and whatever, but I don't want to go sit and have a conversation in French. It's too much. So I would always kind of find these places that had game matches on, and they Scottish or whatever. So he's always telling me I got to get up there. So one of the times when I go over there, I'm going to just take the short train ride up. It needs to be a time when I have
pack warm clothes.
Yeah, it's always cold there. It's like Manchester. I need to have a couple, when I used to go for 3 weeks, I think maybe in February, March, something like that. It will be like that. Maybe March, hopefully.
Well, there's really only 2 teams in the Scottish League that, ever are good. But when they play each other, it can get a pretty nasty in that regard. But, But yeah, no, it's my niece was there at Edinburgh, and she went to the Celtic and the Edinburgh games, and I'm like, she goes, who do you root for? I said, you don't root for either. You just don't wear anything that would even give you a color of any sort.
Yeah.
Stay in the middle and just watch. Shut up. Safety is by not saying anything. It's like going to a Flyers game. You don't want to wear any shirt that isn't a Flyer shirt. Just sit there and watch it and enjoy it. So Edinburgh plays Glasgow. There's when Edinburgh plays Glasgow, that's a pretty intense rivalry.
Yep. Edinburgh is a place to visit. Glasgow, the place to watch football. Yep. And Foxy, I guess I'm guessing that Luton Town couldn't do it on a cold, wet Tuesday night at Stoke. So that's always the thing they say about Messi. Could he do it on a cold night in Stoke? But
I don't know who could. It's
an interesting stadium. You see it when you take the train from London to Manchester, the high-speed train, Avanti, I guess it's called now. You can see it up on top of the hill there, and it's just the weather's just every time Manchester United used to play there, it was absolutely atrocious.
Well, it looks like you're playing on a slip and slide.
Yeah, sideways rain, wind.
It's crazy.
The lights went out. Well, I remember the lights went out one time there, and like in the first half. And when they came back on, we absolutely annihilated them. Robin Van Persie had a bunch of goals.
It's one of those places where when you go out of the stadium, you expect to look out and see, the Hounds of the Baskerville. I mean, it's like the Moors are coming over the marsh areas out there. It's really crazy. So it's really scary looking. So, it's good for Halloween, I guess. If you're playing soccer on Halloween. But we had that, let's see what's going on. What else is going on? I saw where we were just talking about San Diego State, where San Diego State is likely to join the Pac-12 after they get their new TV deal done.
Wow.
So, San Diego State likely to join the Pac-12 after the TV deal is done. And there will be others, but it's definitely Foxy talking to us about Stoke and the coldest stadium I've ever been, not the nicest part of the UK.
Yeah, it's
we don't want to get the tourism bureau on our back.
It is, it's not the nicest part.
Yeah, I think that San Diego State to the Pac-12 makes sense because when SC and UCLA move to the Big Ten, that's going to leave the Pac a void in Southern California. So it makes sense, and they're built a brand new on-campus stadium, which is quite nice, and so good for San Diego State. I mean, they have spent the money and taken the time to up their game, and so it looks like that's where the Pac-12 is headed. Gonzaga has also had conversations, and I think the important word is conversation, with the Pac-12 and the Big 12 about perhaps making a move. Obviously, it would be basketball only for them. Although I'm going to say, I like that little conference that they're in with
West Coast.
With San Francisco and St. Mary's, and they got some pretty decent teams in that conference. So I think I don't know whether it's more of a flirtation on the part of Gonzaga or if they're serious about it, but we'll see one way or the other.
Yeah, I would think the Pac-12 move makes more sense than the Big 12 just because of the that's right there.
Yeah.
You're playing you're playing the teams in your area, and
right.
You set some new rivalries up with Washington State, Oregon State. So I think that would make a lot more sense, and maybe another soccer and some of these other sports as well.
Right.
Maybe for the Pac-12 might be the better place.
Yeah, it's definitely, and I would think that moving the Big 12 that doesn't make sense for me for basketball because you're basically moving into what at the moment, and it's arguably, but I'm just going to say it, to me, the Big 12 right now is probably the best from bottom to top college basketball league in the country.
Yeah.
And why would you want to leave where a league where all you have to do is be number 1 or 2 in that league, and you're going to be in the tournament to go. Now, moving to the Pac-12 is no easy task either, but it's a whole lot more difficult to navigate your way through a season in the in the Big 12 than it would be in the Pac-12 right now in college basketball.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So, what's your thoughts on? We've got about 10 more minutes to chat about the stuff going on here. So, join in, folks. What's your thoughts about college realignment in general? I mean, now you're over there where Rutgers made the move to the Big Ten. Financially, it was phenomenal for them. Maryland, in this case, made the move. It was funny because Wallace Lowe, who is the president of the University of Maryland, basically said the quiet part out loud when he was asked by the press during the press conference, why did Maryland leave the ACC? And he said, because I can add 3 teams, meaning 3 sports teams, to the Maryland roster. If I stayed in the ACC, I'd have to get rid of 4.
Wow.
So, it was that. Now, I know Gary Williams, who Gary was, of course, he's a graduate of Maryland. He coached the team to a national championship. Very highly respected man in the University of Maryland system. And Gary, of course, coached at Ohio State. Gary never liked being in the ACC because he always thought they got screwed, meaning Maryland. With the exception of very few times, almost every big, ACC tournament, conference tournament was held in North Carolina.
Yeah.
It's like, he's got to go to North Carolina, where automatically Duke and North Carolina have an advantage over him because, literally they're playing in Greensboro. So I don't know how much sway he had, but Wallace Lowe, of course, the president, said that, they thought that was a good move. It's Maryland did it in large part because they felt, and the reason the Big Ten wanted them is A, they were an AAU school, and B, Penn State had been, griping for years that they didn't have a natural rival. And so, because they have a long and standing history of high school basketball and football games, because of course Maryland and Pennsylvania share a very long and very storied border, better known as the Mason-Dixon line, for those of you studying history. Mark that down in your papers. They have that ability because teams from Maryland would go to Pennsylvania and play. Teams from Pennsylvania would come to Maryland and play. So, although I don't think the rivalry's got quite on, even though they've been together for a while now.
Yeah, it's interesting. Now you see what the ACC is doing. They're moving the tournament all over the place. Now it's in Brooklyn, and now it's and things. So I think they figured out with the TV deals and stuff today. EJ said he likes Providence today.
Who are they playing?
13. They're playing Ryder, where we tape our show, my other show. So yeah, I would agree with that. Ryder is going to be one of the top 2 or 3 teams in that league, but I just think Providence is better. Someone was talking about they liked Mercer today. I think it was Bill on the other show. They liked Mercer, and I think that's basically it. Not a lot of action today since everybody played yesterday.
Right.
Basically, if you weren't playing yesterday, you I don't even know. You should.
And there's no NBA today because they want you out to vote. So no NBA today, and there's that. We were talking about conference realignment, and the USC UCLA moved to the Big Ten, and the Big Ten saying there will be no more expansion at the moment. That kind of freezes things and puts the Pac-12 on the clock for a deal. And I know for a fact that ESPN and Amazon feel like they can pull that off. And it's going to be interesting to see what kind of number they can get. I was surprised, to be honest, the number that the Big 12 got. I didn't think, frankly, that they had that they merited that kind of money because they don't have the markets. And while they have some interesting teams, there's nothing that. I mean, Baylor, yes, from time to time they'll watch Baylor play, Kansas play, yeah, fine. But football or basketball, basketball, as I said, good conference, 100%. But they came up and ended up with a pretty decent deal. Now, I don't see why the Pac 10 at the moment, because there's 12 teams, 2 of them are going. I don't see why they can't match it or go even better.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's something that it seems like it's trending towards these super conferences and all this stuff, and I think a lot of it had to do with football, but now I think it's going to these other sports as well. So,
it's content. I mean, you need content.
Yes,
we talked earlier in the show about Paramount Plus. We've talked about Peacock. We talked about ESPN Plus. I mean, ESPN Plus, part of the deal with that bounced the money up for ESPN was that all of the third, which is basically they call it third tier rights. Third tier rights, for those of you who don't know, is all of your Olympic sports and the fourth pick of the college football game of the week. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's your tier 3 rights. Every school in the Big 12 used to own their own, which is why Texas had the Longhorn Network. And Oklahoma had a Sooner Vision or something. I don't know where it was. It wasn't a big deal. But anyway, those all went away, and ESPN took those tier 3 rights. My guess is that in the new Pac-10 deal, the tier 3 rights are going to go to Amazon because content-wise, ESPN and Amazon can split that up. And the tier 3 rights in the Big 10 deal, which was huge, goes across the board. It goes to Fox. It goes to Paramount Plus. It goes to Peacock, and so they have they're parsing that out. So content is important. Soccer will now become, college soccer will now become very important in these packages.
Yep.
And, softball and all kinds of stuff. So it's going to, yes, it's about football. Football is really still the king, but the rest of this content is important to these streaming services because you have to stream something, and that's where we're going with it. It's about time to get out of here, boss. Any final thoughts before we head out for the day?
No, just excited to watch a couple more games tomorrow and talk about some of the stuff. So,
what are we going to watch before we talk on at 3:00?
Well, I got to go watch a high school soccer game tonight, but tomorrow I'm going to watch maybe a little bit of maybe a little soccer in the afternoon before we come on. I think there's a couple early games here, so we'll try to get one of them in somewhere. I think we got EFL Cup starts at 2:45, but we got a couple of Sevilla Real Sociedad plays and a couple games in Germany and Italy. So there's some early action tomorrow. Find something. Yeah.
All right. Well, tell you what. Have a good day, ladies and gentlemen. It's been fun. For Sean Miller, I'm Jim Williams saying so long. Join us tomorrow as we take you around the world of sports. Okay. and we do it daily. So tell your friends and do us a favor. Smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, and share it with other people. All right? Take care. See you tomorrow, guys. I'm trying to close the show, folks. Just hang with me here.